Hi, and welcome to RealClearFetish Revisited, a kind of a little side show to the main show where I invite guests from the first 5 seasons of Real Clear Fetish Talks Real Clear Play. It's all randomized. I've used a Google randomizer with numbers, numbered all the episode, and then I'll just see what comes out at the other end. This week is very special because I've invited back my first ever guest. Hi, Chief Daddy.
How you doing, boy?
I'm very well. I'm very well. And how are you?
I am doing very well. Thank you very much.
Do you know what? I was really pleased when your number came up. I was just like, this is appropriate for the first season of this sideshow to bring back the person it all started with. I've watched maybe like 5 minutes of our episode. It's a great episode, but also like the video quality is appalling. I'm so nervous in the
Hmm.
first episode and kind of don't know what I'm doing at that point. I'm really pleased that we can do this where without patting myself on the back, I'm a little bit more confident with it.
I understand completely because I think it was my first interview and I remember being nervous as well. So it's wonderful to see what our experience brings out in this one.
Well, I had to look up when we did the episode. So your episode was on the 11th of July, 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, that's over 5 years ago now. We were all in the middle of the ravage of COVID. This was my response to being stuck at home and
Hmm.
just kind of go, okay, I can't do my socials anymore. What can I do? Well, we have Instagram Live, so why not try that?
Indeed.
And you were so kind with your time, and you were definitely very good first guest to have on because you were just honest and just eager to share.
We'll get more of the same.
Fantastic. Like with every episode I do on this podcast, I have 6 standard questions, and then we'll just see it's like 15, 20 minutes, and then yeah, that'll be it.
Great.
First,
Thank you so much.
of course, of course. First question. Can you give you a little quick introduction to yourself for people who might not have watched your episode?
Sure. My name is, people know me as Chief Daddy Master or Daddy Doug. I live in the United States. I'm in a open triad with my boy of 12 years, who I met at MAL, and my slave of 7 years, who I was friends with, he and his former master before he became my slave. A lot has happened since in the last 5 years, and in fact, this year has been an interesting transition year career-wise.
Fantastic. Yeah, a lot happens in half a decade. It's a little bit crazy to think that it's already been a half decade since we had that conversation.
Indeed, and it feels just like, and it feels in a sense just like yesterday, but thank goodness it isn't yesterday.
No, and the surroundings behind me are very different. So, since your episode, what has been the most challenging thing in your life and how did you overcome it?
The most challenging thing has been honestly career. At the time of the episode, the original episode, I had just gotten my MBA, looking to move into a new career path that in itself did not really happen because of COVID, and circumstances led me back to the industry I was in. And this year has led me again to a place of transition. And the way that I'm handling that is trying to listen to the universe. So with that, I was in IT as a project manager. And that door seems to be telling me it's closed, which is fine because it's brought me back to things I wanted to do. After 35 years, I began writing again, and I've written a screenplay that is getting noticed, which is excellent. I've moved into beginning a career as a life coach, which is very fulfilling for me, specifically towards gay men. And of course, my Leather family has expanded and contracted at times, but we're at a very stable place
Hmm.
that there is a nice big family here. So those are all the good things in terms of how things have changed. As 5 years would happen, people have had health challenges, people have had mental health challenges. But I'm happy that the Leather family has been what we would define as a family and helping everybody out. So we work through it together.
Yeah, because when we talked, we were just at the start of COVID, really. We were maybe like 3 months into it at that point.
Yeah, I think that after 6 weeks, my slave came down from New Jersey and Maryland to join us just because the isolation was devastating. I think that is really also what's really built up our Leather family is the idea is that we had a safe place. And I think around the time of that episode, we actually had our first gathering of people who had been isolating. It was out on the deck here in Jersey, and we all sat 6 feet away from each other, but we were in the same space.
Mm.
And it was just such a pleasure to be with people in one space again.
Yeah, I remember at one point I think I'd had like 2 to 3 months with no physical contact with anyone, and I was going out of my mind at that point. So it's weird to think back on because it feels so far away, but still quite close. It's such
Mhm.
a weird thing, and we kind of just picked up and keep calm and carry on kind of thing, like the UK does. So it's weird to think about because we were in lockdown when we talked here. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as we were coming out of, or as we began to realize what we could or couldn't do and how to do it safely and whatnot, we began to develop systems of how we could meet and how we could be together in a way that was safe. And once we figured out the social piece of it, we were also then able to figure out the play thing piece of
mm.
it. And maybe our world was a little bit smaller. We couldn't go out to the bar, we couldn't go out to an event, but we at least could create a circle that would allow us to be together.
Third question, you've kind of touched on it a little bit already, but can you tell me what has been the most joyous since your episode?
Ooh, the family. Honestly, I'm very lucky that the men who are in this family who will identify however they identify as pup or a boy or a slave, they're all highly intelligent, capable men who still feel that they can get something from being of service to me or to just being with me, and that I have seen them blossom under me, not just in the leather world, but in themselves. And through our shared experience, them finding their own pathway and their own agency to healing the things they needed to heal.
Well, that's fantastic. It's like especially around COVID and especially now, families just you like chosen families so important, and it feels like we are shifting towards a slightly darker time at the moment, which is why family is so important at the moment.
We all, even if we're estranged from our blood DNA families, we still need a family. And I think
Mm,
that it helps. One of the things I love about being a gay man and being in this world that we are in is though we have some definitions of what things should or should not necessarily be, pretty much everything else is open. What
mm.
is our relationship supposed to be? What is our family supposed to be? What is love supposed to be? And quite frankly, I think today that a lot of homophobia comes out of jealousy because
Mm.
we have that. We have created that for ourselves and said, maybe we can't have, or maybe we're not going to have what you have, but we have what we have. And we created what works for us without the societal definition and pressures that you need to live in.
What do you think we should champion more than ever at the moment?
Kindness and non-judgment.
Mm,
It always astounds me that in the world that we live in, which is, quote unquote, non-conventional, that we break rules. We always broke rules. If you want to go back to Tom of Finland, he broke rules. Yet we're rule breakers who start to create the same boundaries, the same chains in our world that we escaped from the straight world. And I think that is where our danger is. Because especially today, and especially I know that the UK is dealing with some of this a little bit as well, but especially what we're dealing with in the United States, it's more important than ever for us to stick together. You may not understand something. That's okay. You don't have to, but we need to still stick by each other. And I always say it like this, it's that may not be my fetish, but it's not my place to yuck someone else's yum.
absolutely. And a bit of kindness and a bit of understanding or just meeting people where they're at instead of getting angry. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also no reason for the anger. Why do you need the anger? What value does the anger bring to you about someone else's life? How does someone else's identity or what they do or whatnot, that just because you don't understand it, why are you getting in such a rub about it? It's their lives.
Mm.
Let them live their lives as long as their lives are lived, I'll say ethically and legally.
I think that's perfectly sound way of thinking about things, to be honest. Fifth question. What new gear have you poured your love on?
Probably in the last 5 years, this is part of a wonderful gear set that includes some quilted pants and a jacket. I've got a lot of orange leather. I actually have a whole orange uniform. I've got a brown CHP leather uniform. I actually also lost a lot of weight since 2020. So I found a real cloth CHP uniform. And I actually found a Chiefs hat to go with that. A friend of mine borrowed some money from me and said, "Hey, I can't pay you back, but I've got my Westco Big Boss boots that fit you. Would you take that in payment?" So I have that. And I bought my gear in a manner that I can, shall we say, mix and match that. I don't need to get a lot of new gear because, again, I can mix and match. I think the
Mm,
next thing I want is a full black uniform to kind of go with that. And
mm.
the one that I love that I can actually pull out now is my authentic New York City Mounted Police jacket coat.
That is nice. And it's an original.
It is an original. It was the story behind that is a friend of mine who is no longer with us was moving from Delaware, and he was a New York City Mounted Police officer. And think I bought it off of him for $75.
And it's nice when you have something that has a bit of history on it as well.
Yeah, I found somebody who did a beautiful job blacking it so it's shiny, the buttons are brass and shiny and everything. And every time I go out in that in formals, there's a lot of oohs and ahs because it is a piece that you're not going to see on anybody's rack or whatnot.
It's a very unique piece, and I love when we see unique pieces. And there is definitely I've seen quite a few like leather mounty outfits now as well, which is so great. And I never thought I would find a mounty outfit hot, but that is also really hot.
Oh, I have a friend who recently passed who had a leather mounty outfit, and it was absolutely gorgeous.
Mhm, mhm.
And as a uniform like that collector, I'm always looking for things like that. But yeah, and what's wonderful about that jacket, it actually has a lining to go in it. So when
Nice.
it's truly cold, you can wear that.
Oh, nice, nice. That is nice. And the last question to round the episode off with, any new kinks you've developed since?
They're not new kinks, but I have become more confident in especially impact play and bondage than I was 5 years ago. Also, some of the boys that I've met are happy with doing things that are a bit rougher, which has allowed me the space to explore more. I have a wonderful story. There's a slave I have in Palm Springs who, my last day, I left him with some beautiful bite marks. And he was excited that the next day he was going to the doctor and could show them off to him because the doctor was gay as well. And then he called me the next day and he was so sad because, Master, I'm really upset. And I said, why? I said, my doctor's appointment's not till next month and you won't be here to freshen them up.
I would be sad as well if that had been me, if you want to
Right?
show them off.
Yeah, yeah. And I just thought, oh, what a lovely comment. And then another boy who also is new, and the next day he said, Daddy, your teeth marks faded. Next time, could we make them harder? I'd love them to be around for a week or so. I said, no problem.
I'm just like, I'm happy to oblige.
Oh, happy to oblige. I remember that session well. He showed me after I fucked him. He showed me the teeth marks he made in the bedpost.
Wow. Well, that's a good way to round this little mini episode off. It's been really lovely to revisit you and just see where you're at in life. And
Thank you, and it's so wonderful to see you and to see how successful this podcast has become, and to all the wonderful work that you do, and to celebrate people being able to come here and stay in their fetish life in a manner that isn't enabled by outside sources.
absolutely. And it's tough. It's tough out here and it's not gotten better. I would say it's gotten worse in the last 5 years. I do this for people who get something out of watching this, for sure.
I think it goes back to the question you asked me earlier about us being kinder and being more accepting. And that doesn't mean we all have to play with each other, but there's ways that we can approach that
Mm.
still allow people in and allow them in our space without it always having that, even if for whatever reason we don't mesh on the play front, they can still mesh on our heart fronts.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a really, really lovely place to end. Thank you for doing this and indulging me.
Oh, but always a pleasure to contribute to this.
Fantastic. And that was this week's episode. It was really lovely to revisit Daddy Chief Master. He has a special place in my heart as my first ever guest, and I could not have predicted I would be here 5 years later, still doing this, and also doing a side podcast and Instagram and all the stuff I do nowadays. So I appreciate him with all my heart. So I'll see you in 2 weeks' time for another mini episode, and bye.